Welcome to Hustle and Flow with Heather Hubbard, episode number 2. Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard, and I was a litigator, partner, and practice group leader at an AmLaw 200 firm. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your personal life. So how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you embrace your ambition without selling your soul? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. Welcome back. I am your host, Heather Hubbard. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am recording this here in Nashville. That's where I live. And it is 70 and sunny, and it feels like spring, but it also means that my allergies are starting to kick in. So I apologize if my voice does not sound as good as usual. Here's what we're talking about today. And my allergies are going to relate to this. We are talking about the reasons why we get stuck and the reasons why we stay stuck. So I am a coach and consultant to law firms and to lawyers. And the number one thing that they come to me with is feeling stuck in a certain area and wanting to make improvements, to make changes. The same things show up over and over again, whether it is an individual or an organization. There are 6 reasons that you are likely stuck, and you will stay stuck unless you're willing to address them and make positive change. I will tell you that I have personally experienced all of these before. So I am not addressing these from the perspective of, I don't ever do this, I have it all figured out, and I don't experience anything that's going to hold me back. The truth is, I've experienced a lot of these, and I used to do them without realizing that I was doing them. The first step is to become aware that this issue is holding you back, because once you know what's happening, it gives you the power to make those positive changes so that you can move forward and you can move through the block. So what are these 6 issues most likely to hold you back? Well, I'm about to cover each one in detail. What I would recommend that you do is listen to each issue and try to identify whether or not you do it, and if so, how you might stop or how you might make a change. Don't worry about taking notes. If you go to the show notes page at hustleandflowpodcast.com/2, you will get all the notes as well as a free download. If you are already on my email list, you will get a free copy of all of that right in your inbox. Okay, let's dig in. Number 1, fear of disapproval. And this is where the allergies come in. We don't take action. We stay stuck because we are so afraid that we are going to disappoint someone else. What will people think of me? And so, my prefacing this podcast with the fact that my voice isn't as good as it should be because of allergies, that's really just my own fear of disapproval. That is my own fear that you may not like the way my voice sounds, right? I should just get on here and own it. It's not a big deal. And this is a big one for me, and it's why I'm putting it out there as number 1. And I know I am not alone. So many of my clients that show up have this same issue. And quite frankly, I think law schools teach us to be people pleasers. I know that when I was in law school, at orientation, my very first day at orientation, they gave us the exam schedule. And one of the exams, it was actually going to be on a Saturday. Well, I was supposed to be a bridesmaid in my best friend's wedding from high school. And so I went to I think she was maybe the dean of students. I don't know what you called it back then. It might have been dean of admissions. But I go to her and I'm like, I can't take the exam this date, in December. We've got to figure out a way to work around it. And she was like, we don't work around schedules, and welcome to becoming a lawyer. You will be letting down friends and family for the rest of your life. You have to put your, legal career first. And, I believed her. So I had to tell my friend that I couldn't be in her wedding. It literally started at orientation. And I think the Socratic method and the way they teach us to go into our interviews and finding jobs at large law firms, I really do think that they train us to become people pleasers. I think a lot of women are people pleasers to begin with, but law school training just makes it even worse. So what do I mean by fear of disapproval? I mean, I think you probably get the overall gist, but a lot of times people will show up and say, well, if I made a change in my career, let's just do an example. Let's say that you're wanting to go from a law firm job to an in-house job or a teaching job, but you're going to take a large pay cut. I hear this one a lot. My children are in private schools, or my husband, my family is used to me making a certain amount of money, and I'm really worried that I would be letting them down and that they would be disappointed and upset if I did that. That's one example. Another could be reputation. And this happens a lot with, parents. If there were certain expectations that you were going to become a certain type of attorney or practice in a certain area, there's this fear of, well, if I make a change, I'll really be letting down my parents. They're so proud of me. They really want me to do this. Another could be a fear of disapproval when it comes to time. So, for example, maybe you want to go into a certain area of law, or you're looking at making a change that's going to require you to travel more. And you actually don't have any issues with traveling more, but you're concerned again about your family or friends or others that are going to disapprove of your being on the road and not, with your kids at a certain time every single day of the week. A lot of us are afraid of what others think. Like, we actually don't have any issue with it at all ourselves, but we're afraid of what others will think of us. I have so many friends that go to so many children's birthday parties when they have better things to do. And the only reason they're going is because they're worried they're going to be talked about by the other mothers. Anyway, fear of disapproval. This is a big one. And it's not just with family and friends. It's also with our superiors, our colleagues, the bar in general. Well, what will people think if I say no? If I don't go to this event, or if I turn down this case or this matter, what will people say? Will they stop giving me work? Will they stop sending me referrals? There's just this fear of what people think about us. And the same holds true for clients. We're worried that if we make changes in our schedule, if we approach things differently with our cases, that our clients will be so upset that they fire us. And we don't even know if it's true. And even if it is it really the end of the world? So this is a big one. Just check in. Is fear of disapproval one of the issues that holds you back from making changes in your career or in your life? Okay. Issue number 2. Excuses. Making excuses. I can't because. I can't do that because. I can't make a change because. And when you make that statement, when you make that excuse, you are assuming that you have no control. You are a victim of a situation in which you have zero control. Here are some examples. I would love to take this job, but it would require us to move, and I can't move because my kids are here or my parents are here. I am not mobile. I cannot move from my city. Another, this kind of goes back to the first one, I couldn't possibly take a pay cut because my kids are in private school. Or you want to start a new practice or do something new, and your excuse is, well, my firm won't let me do that. They've tried it before, people have asked before, and the answer is no. Or my clients demand it. I have to do that. I have no options. Okay. You don't have to do anything. I'm going to repeat that. You don't have to do anything. You can move. You're choosing not to. Your children don't have to be in private school. You're choosing for them to be in private school. The key here is to recognize that it is a choice. Because once you realize it is a choice, you take back your power. You realize that you are no longer a victim of your circumstances. You actually are choosing this. So if you can articulate why you're making that choice, it's actually empowering. And then it frees up your energy to focus on things you can change, as opposed to just repeating this excuse over and over and over again. So for example, maybe it's, I could move, but my parents are here and they are sick or they're getting older, and it's really important to me that I spend time with them. And so even though I would love to move, I'm choosing to stay. For now, I am choosing to stay. And what that means is I get to spend time with my parents. I get to feel like I am taking care of them, and that makes me feel good about myself. You just took back your power. You just realized that it is your choice, it is your decision, and you made it, and you're owning it. It doesn't mean that it's perfect, right? Few decisions are perfect, but it is your choice. You're not a victim. When you own that, when you take back your power, it really frees you up to focus on the things that you are willing to change. Now, if you go through that list and you can't really decide or articulate why you're choosing it, because maybe you're choosing it because of, number one, fear of disapproval, then maybe it's time to recognize it for what it is, which is letting other people or other situations have control because that's what you're allowing. And if that's the case, then, maybe you decide, I am going to make a change. I'm no longer going to allow this to be an excuse. I'm going to see what is possible. And I'm going to make this change. I'm going to take back my power because I realize that I don't have to do anything. I have a choice in every single matter, in every single situation. So no more excuses. Take back your power. You get to decide what you want. Okay, the third issue most likely to be holding you back. Feeling comfortable with what you know. There is comfort in the discomfort. So many of us think that when we've been in a situation long enough, and this happens for a lot of people that went straight from law school into their law firm, and they've been there the entire time, they think that it's probably the best they're going to get. There's this feeling of, it's not ideal, but it could be worse. This may be the absolute best that I can get. And you hear stories of how people leave and they're still working just as hard, or they're working with a new set of partners that are just as annoying, or they leave and then they come back, right? It's just this feeling of, at least I know the dysfunction within the four walls. At least I know what I'm getting into each and every day. If I make some kind of change, well, what if it's a huge mistake? What if it's even worse? And then I can't come back. What happens then? Right? It's all doom and gloom. And part of this is just a scarcity mentality. And the legal industry as a whole, if they gave out awards for scarcity mentalities, I think we might win it, because we are really, really good at thinking and convincing others to believe that it could always be a lot worse. And so part of this is a lack of self-confidence. I think a lot of us feel as though we are frauds, that we don't actually belong there. And I know that's very true for me. I came from a very small town in Kentucky, and when I was in law school and even when I was practicing law. And to this day, there are moments when I feel like someone is going to figure out that I don't belong here. I'm not intelligent enough. I am not worldly enough. I don't have family connections. Like, what in the world am I doing here? Why is anyone letting me be at this party? Well, that goes to a lack of self-confidence. And when we feel as though we are a fraud, when we feel as though we're going to be found out at any moment, then of course we're going to think, well, if I go make a change, I'm not going to have other options, because the only reason I have this current option is because I fooled someone into believing that I was worthy of the position. And the truth is, you didn't get to where you are by tricking anyone. You got there on your own merit. And if you could get this job, you can get another job. Will it happen overnight? Maybe not. We're in a tough legal market. But that doesn't mean that you don't have other options. And it could be that the current option you do have is the best, but you need to be making changes within it. And that goes to some of the other issues that come up. But I want you to check in with, are you feeling so comfortable with what you know that you're not willing to take a risk to find out whether or not there is something better? And that doesn't even mean changing jobs, okay? For example, if you're in a firm and a practice group that you don't enjoy, but you've been in that practice group for 10 years, well, what would that look like to change practice groups? Is that even possible? And so assuming it is possible, assuming that you could get buy-in from others to make that move, again, this goes back to the same concept of, well, at least I know what I'm dealing with right now. And who knows what craziness I might be getting myself into if I make that move. Look, you are a smart, intelligent person, and you can find out, you can do a good job of investigating whether or not that is a good move for you. And guess what? If you make that move and it's not ideal, either you go find something else or, and this happens all the time, you just go back to what you were doing. It amazes me how many people go back to the same position, and yet the people around them think that if they left, they could never come back. So anyway, don't let familiarity become a security blanket. Just check in with yourself. Is this holding you back? All right, issue number 4, and this is a big one for lawyers. Thinking logically. Thinking logically. As lawyers, we are trained to be skeptical, judgmental, always looking for what is going to go wrong. It's just issue spotting, right? Like, we're constantly trying to identify the issue that is going to blow everything up. And we do that by thinking in a very linear fashion. We are very logical. The problem is when we get that logical and we try to apply it to our own problems or our own situations, we can't see our way out. We are in this tiny little bubble, this tiny little box, and we literally cannot find a way out because we are thinking of it from such a negative and logical perspective. Sometimes you've got to get creative. You've got to trust your intuition. And that's really hard for lawyers to do. We learned in law school to stop trusting our intuition, to stop listening to our gut, and to only use a very critical mind. That doesn't always help you solve problems in your personal life or your professional life. And quite frankly, I think that using a little creativity and intuition might help you in your legal cases and your deals as well. So how do you get outside of the box? The legal industry is so antiquated. It's amazing to me how when we talk about innovation and creativity, we are still light years behind most entrepreneurs or the business world. We are not creative at all. And I often say that not only are we like in our own little box, we're like one of those styrofoam peanuts in a box. That's how narrow-minded we are. And we are convinced that the world revolves around that tiny little peanut. But guess what? That's just not even true. So the first thing I want you to do is get outside the peanut. Then you're in the box. And then I want you to get outside the box. Start to think creatively. Think for yourself. Okay. One of the big things we always say was, well, that won't work in the legal industry because, well, it might. Even if someone else tried it before, maybe they didn't try it the way you're going to try it. And maybe you're the one that can break the mold and someone else didn't have the personality to do that. Really get creative. Don't worry about your firm or your corporation and the rules and the guidelines. If you could come up with a perfect solution, what would it look like? Maybe there is an answer. And then you just go propose it. I mean, all they can say is no. So if you think logically, if you are skeptical, if you are critical, if you are judgmental, if you are issue spotting all day long and identifying all the ways in which something cannot happen, if you're identifying all the ways in which your problem cannot be solved, then I encourage you to start listening to your gut, thinking for yourself, and getting a bit creative. Okay, we have 2 more. Number 5, promoting negative energy. What do I mean by that? Okay. How often do you complain? If you're a lawyer, you probably complain a lot. It's hard to go into a room with a bunch of lawyers and not run into at least one conversation where the group is complaining about something. Okay, so with negative energy, I'm talking about complaining, gossiping, and looking for the bad in everything. Again, we are skeptical. That is either, I don't know if it's by nature, I don't know if it's by nurture, but most lawyers are negative, and we have to get out of that mode if we want to get unstuck and be happier. Another example of promoting negative energy is being so busy and being so exhausted and wanting to tell anyone that will listen. We tend to wear it like a badge of honor. We think it's impressive. It's as if we're all competing to be the busiest, most exhausted person out there. And look, that's not something to be proud of. And it is definitely promoting negative energy. We've all asked, that person how they're doing, and they have a litany of reasons why their life is terrible. You're literally going to attract more of that. And you are not someone that others want to be around if all you're doing all the time is talking about how busy and exhausted you are. The third category of promoting negative energy is comparing yourself to others. So this could be within your firm or your company or outside. So for example, you may have a competitor at another law firm that keeps getting all of the deals or all of the cases that you want. And you're like, I don't understand. Like, why would they not send that to me? Or maybe it's someone within your firm and you're like, why does that guy keep getting referrals when I know I do a good job? Like, what is going on? And look, we are in an industry that definitely has a lot of sexism and racism. That's just the truth of the matter. And so it can be even more frustrating when you see others from a different race or a different gender that seem to be treated differently or seem to be getting opportunities that you're not getting. And I'm not suggesting that you don't recognize that, point that out, push back against it. But when you let it consume you, it takes you out. It completely takes you out. And you're the only one that really loses in the end because it's putting you in such a negative frame of mind. And we'll address that issue in another episode. It is a topic in and of itself. But when you find yourself comparing yourself to others, whether it is realistic or a legitimate reason or not, it keeps you in that negative mindset. So if you find yourself promoting negative energy, you've got a few different things you can do. One is you can start practicing more gratitude, using more positive words, starting to see solutions instead of problems. Smile, laugh, and walk away. If you are around friends or you are in a setting where people start gossiping or complaining, just get up and walk away. You don't even have to tell them why, right? Like, we're busy, we're exhausted. You have plenty of things to do. But literally just walk away. All right. So the very last one, number 6, failing to recognize what you want and asking for it. This one's a 2-parter. All right. So many of us just start climbing that corporate ladder. We went to law school and we were like, okay, we're going to check some boxes. We're going to keep achieving. We are high achievers and we're going to keep achieving. And we don't ever stop to say, is this really what I want? We often end up in practice areas without even really knowing what we're getting into. And then, 10 years later, we're like, I don't even know if I enjoy this, but I don't know what I would enjoy more. We literally don't take time to think about, do I want this? What do I want? Most of us are just going through the motions, right? We are just getting through the day, or we are just working on achieving. But what do you really want? And what would improve your situation? So if you are unhappy with what you're doing, why? Why are you unhappy? You've got to pinpoint that. You've got to figure out what it is about your current job or your current situation that is not working for you. And then once you figure that out, you have to ask. You have to ask for it, because people are not going to give you what you need and want without you articulating why. And so many people, I see this happen all the time. Again, especially with females and minorities. So many leave without ever asking for what they need and for what they want. And so a lot of law firms have no idea that you're even unhappy. And so by the time you've made up your mind and you're leaving, there's no negotiating, but you never really told them what you needed. You didn't give them an opportunity to address it. Now, they very well may say, we can't do that, but at least you know, at least you asked. So asking for what you want is important, not just because it's going to give you confidence and perhaps an opportunity to improve your situation without doing a lot, but 2, if you simply decide you know what you want and you're not willing to ask for it, and if you don't even know what you want, you just go to another situation, right? Like you switch jobs, you go in-house, you go to another firm. You're likely just going to take the same issues and the same baggage with you. You're getting a new environment. You'll have a honeymoon period, but you're not dealing with those core issues. So unless you're willing to identify what you want, what would be a possible solution, and actually ask for it, you're likely just going to end up in the same situations over and over and over again. And we don't want that. We don't want that. There you have it. Those are the top 6 reasons, issues that keep showing up over and over and over again for individuals and organizations as to why they are stuck and why they remain stuck. So what resonates with you? Do you find that you might fall in all of these categories? Is there one or two where you really identify with those the most? Where can you start to be more aware and make changes within those areas in order to see if you can't improve your situation and move through whatever blocks you are facing? If you would like a free download with a summary of all 6 of the issues most likely to be holding you back, as well as tips and ideas on how to work through those, head on over to hustleandflowpodcast.com/2. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next episode. For show notes, downloads, and other free resources, and to keep the conversation going, head on over to hustleandflowpodcast.com. See you there.